Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mastermind, Body, and Spirit Show. I am your host, Matt Belair, and today we have a spectacular guest for you. I first met him briefly making epic dance moves. I think it was New Year's Eve, and then we really established a friendship at Burning Man in the Vortex where we became quick and fast friends. He is the owner of, what's your restaurant called? Cinco restaurant in LA, which I need to get to.
Yeah.
And also Angelisco Tequila. This is my brother, my human brother, my starseed brother, the man, Blake Landis.
Hey, brother. Thanks for having me on. Hello, everybody. How y'all doing?
What's up, buddy? So good to see you.
It's great to see you too, man. You look amazing.
Yeah, thanks, brother. I had to rep the Burning Man vibe for you. I wanted to paint my face, as I said, but I didn't have enough time, so we'll do round two.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, my friend. So you to me are like definitely badass in every single way. You are so congruent and loving. I remember just, I didn't really know you that well, but you're going around Burning Man and you always have this huge smile on your face and like you're just like such a pleasant human being to be around. But you're also kicking ass really, really hard in the 3D world, like righteously with the most righteous intention also, which is, why I love you. Can you just give a little background for people who don't know you, who you are, how you got to where you are today, and what the heck you're up to?
All right. Yeah. I guess the journey started there's kind of like three massive awakening points in my life. The first one, I was 12 years old and my friends were smoking pot. I'm growing up here in Southern California. I'm in Torrance. I was a skater. They're smoking pot, and I'm like, I'm going to be a good kid. I'm not going to smoke. I'm going to, be sober so I can skate home and feel good when I get home to my mom. And I shot out of my body, and I was like 15 feet above our whole group looking down on everybody. And it was the second time it had happened to me. And that was like my first awakening that we're not these bodies. We are something far different. And so I spent a pretty good portion of my life trying to forget that and pretending like I didn't know. And I didn't really tell anybody about it until I met all of you wild people at Burning Man. That was when I really fully divulged that oh yeah, I've been outside of my body before. So that kind of set the groundwork for my development in this human body in this lifetime, I think. I went through college, went to UC Santa Barbara, had a great time. But as people were filtering into kind of career type jobs, I just could not do it. I just didn't make sense. And so I started waiting tables and I traveled to South America and I went to Machu Picchu and I went to some places and felt really connected to traveling and wanting to just keep doing that. And, got home, moved to San Francisco, kept bartending, doing all this whole thing. And still just couldn't bring myself to get a real job. And then just kept feeling like something would work out. Something's going to work out in the end. It was like a mantra that my best friend and I had. Something's always going to work out. And ended up moving back to LA and decided I was going to give in. I was going to go to law school, and I'm studying for law school. And I had my second massive shift of an awakening. I took a job off of Craigslist working for a bar in Santa Monica. And on my very first day, I met a kid from Oaxaca. His name was Hernan. He was the only other guy that had been hired by the chauvinist prick owner. And so it's just the two of us. And day one, I told him, hey, man, I'm going to teach you English and you're going to teach me Spanish. So let's do this. And he said, okay. So on our first day, he tells me through a 5-hour shift, we struggled through his story of getting to California. And basically he tells me that he had left Oaxaca, this kid from a small town in Oaxaca, no running water, no electricity where he grew up. He had left town and was going to school to become an engineer in Mexico City. So he had basically made it for somebody from his town. He got a call one day from his brother that his dad had left the family with nothing but debt, just disappeared. And so just like that, boom, he dropped everything. He sold everything he owned. He quit his job. He dropped out of school. He went home for 2 days, found a coyote, crossed the border into Los Angeles, and started washing dishes twice a day, 7 days a week. I met him 2 years into that process. And when he finished telling me that bit of the story, he was like, well, now I'm here. And it was like a light bulb just went, boop. And I knew I was never going to law school. And that right then and there, I told him, I said, hey, how do you say we're going to own a bar together one day? And he actually told me, let's see if I have my journal right here. He told me how to say one day not far, basically. And he wrote it on a little credit card receipt. That's how we taught each other phrases and stuff. And I found it years later, fluttering out of my closet. Algún día no muy lejano. And basically 7 years later, after meeting a couple other bartenders on the way, we opened Cinco in Playa del Rey. And I thought that like as soon as we had it open, I would be like, yes, like satisfaction. Now here I am. Like I don't have the burning desire anymore to like keep doing. And it was just fuel on the fire. It was like, what's next? How do we continue to help this family grow? And so that was when the tequila came about. We realized that we were just hustling the next big deal from big brands of tequila in order to have like a good cost and have it make sense for business wise at the restaurant. And we thought, well, what if we just do our own? We know it's always going to be the same price. We'll know what's in it. We'll know that we're not cutting corners and adding glycerol, which is a natural plant sugar, but a lot of brands use it to mask, shortcuts that they're doing. And just, there's a lot of unknowns out there unless you really know what you're doing, basically, without talking bad about other brands or big brands. And so we decided to do it. And synchronistically, we had an investor whose father was great friends with our favorite tequila, Tequila Ocho, and his name's Tomas Estes, and he is a complete badass. You would love him. He opened a taqueria in Amsterdam in the 70s, so that's like the kind of guy he is. He's just like goes for it, and he's so passionate. He's in his 80s. And he came in and without even thinking twice, immediately gave us a list of names for us to create a brand that was, in a sense, competition for him. And he was just like, do it, go, contact these people. And one family wrote back and we bonded on a really deep level. We basically had a Skype for 10 minutes and then flew out there, had this massive meeting in a boardroom where I was the only one who could speak Spanish because Hernan couldn't come. And at the end of like an hour, I'm sweating, like struggling, all the pressure of being the only one speaking Spanish. I don't want to ruin it. Jose looks at me and then in English, he's like, 3 years ago, we decided to stop working with Americans. And I'm like, oh, fuck, man. We flew all the way down here to hear no. And then he just bursts out laughing and he reaches across the table, he shakes hands and he's like, something in your email caught my attention and now I know why. I'm going to show you the Highlands. And we proceeded to go out and travel all over the Highlands, and it's just absolutely magnificent. It's beautiful. It reminds me of Tuscany. It's old Spanish missionary town. So you see far off in the distance a little church steeple, and then connecting all these towns are these big rolling fields of blue agave, and it's just absolutely amazing. And everybody who's there, they're so happy. They love what they do, and it clearly shows in the spirits that they're creating, that everybody from the ground up loves what they do. And we ended up just, trying so many tequilas and going to restaurants. And once the drink was flowing and we had the spirit in us, we were talking a lot about our purpose and why we wanted to do it. And we started just bonding on a really deep level. And Jose asked me, he said, have you gone to Landmark Forum? And at the time, I had no idea what he was talking about because he's speaking fluent Spanish and then he's saying Landmark Forum. And I'm like, what's that? And now, of course, I know what Landmark Forum is. And, ironically, without even having to go, a lot of our, our values were very similar and aligned because of his journey through the Landmark Forum and ours just, I guess, our journey through life and what had brought us there. So we've had the tequila now in the States for a year and a half, and it's been to Canada many times. It's been around, it's been to Burning Man. It goes everywhere with us, really. But my favorite part about it is that last year we convinced the U.S. Embassy to grant Hernan a travel visa to go home and see his family for the first time in 12 years, by showing them that we had a business in Mexico, we had a business in Los Angeles, and he wasn't a flight risk or wasn't going to try and, bring more people back in with them. It was just simply he wanted to go home and see the family that he's supporting. And so getting that selfie from a Ford Econoline van, looking back with his whole family, picking him up from the airport, that was success. At that point, I went, okay, now I see why. And yeah.
It's amazing.
Here we are.
Dude, yeah, I remember you telling me a little bit of that story at Burning Man, as we got to know each other with some spicy margaritas, I think that you made that were so cold and so delicious, which is great because like you're just in the morning right beside Bubbles and Bass, like just sipping these tequilas that are so good. And I was like, dude, I could see just your smile across the room. I was like, I knew there's a reason I loved you. Like, what a story. Holy shit, man. I was like, that's amazing. What did you put? Do you remember what you put in the email that made him allow you to come to Mexico for the meeting?
I actually looked back and I found it, and it's pretty simple. But basically, I just said that we're 5 bartenders that have all come together. We saved up our tips for years, and we managed to open up a restaurant with Hernan's family in the kitchen. And we believe in every little bit of food that comes out of that kitchen. We believe in all of our cocktails, and everything we serve, we put a lot of love into and put a lot of passion into it. And we want to feel the same about the tequila that we're putting into all of our drinks for happy hour. And it's by far the biggest seller is tequila at our place. So we just wanted to believe in what we were doing. And then I just talked a little bit about Hernan's family and how our dream is to have our own mezcal one day. And it would be really amazing to have a tequila as well. And that was it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you go down there, and he won't work with Americans, but
yeah,
you win him over.
Now he's just like, he's a brother to me, and it's just so funny to look back on that moment of not knowing him and not knowing that side of him. But just like my heart just sank, like, I fucked it up. I didn't say something right, So yeah, and now, from a higher perspective, higher purpose, after learning about cymatics and looking at the work of Dr. Masaru Emoto and the power of infusion, and I believe in the power of infusing intent and intention into everything that you do. And that's why people say, oh, that food tastes so good because it's made with love. Well, it really does, because if they are making it with the intention of it nourishing your body, I think that those vibes end up inside of the molecules within the food, and then that ends up within your energetic system. In the same way, I think about tequila. It's a spirit, which cracks me up that the word spirit has such a dual meaning. After diving so deeply into the spiritual community for a while, I started to question owning a bar, where a lot of the times people go to escape from something or run from something, and alcohol can be seen as a disconnect on an energetic level. And so I really sat with that for a while, and then I realized, well, there's people that have met in our restaurant that are now married, and there's people that have gotten married in our restaurant. I met my wife, who is 9 weeks from having our baby boy at the front door of that restaurant. And this place is also an epicenter for love. And sure enough, some people might come in and have a little bit too much to drink and be running from something. But our intention is to have this spirit always be used to connect and to remember who you are. So we say drink to remember. It's a plant medicine, just like anything else. Distilled from this little warrior of a plant out in Jalisco. They water it for 2 years, and then after that, it's just the rainstorms, the trombas, that water it, and that's that's just a beautiful thing, you know. It's this little guy out there. Doesn't matter how hot it is, just got his little arms up, you know. And so when we got our tequila into our warehouse that first time, February 3rd of last year, first thing I did was blast some of my favorite Burning Man sets to all the bottles so that they were vibrating on that level. So obviously DJ Justin Roy, J Roy was playing, some Thomas Cardan, obviously, tons of stuff from Robot Heart, you know, it's just getting it, Eduardo Castillo, a lot of people that ended up playing at our camp last year, which was so cool to be able to share the tequila with them and be like, hey, these bottles have already listened to your music, man. Like, but I think of them as little love bombs going out into the bars and restaurants and people's homes. And, you know, I always try and manifest that these bottles will only be used to celebrate and commemorate and create new loving experiences, not to, you know, to dwell on the past or run from something that you need to do or hide from it. And in that way, I think it's a pretty powerful medicine to connect.
Yeah, brother, that's beautiful stuff. So you said a few things there, though, that I just want the audience to clarify. You talked about cymatics. I say Masimoto. I'm probably saying it wrong.
You're probably saying it right.
One of us is close. Do you just want to talk a little bit about that? Because I 100% believe in the power of intention. Cymatics is science of, well, you go ahead and talk about it, but it's like science-based. So,
right. Basically the patterns. The cymatics is basically the patterns that form from sound waves and tones of sound specifically. And so a lot of times the way they do it is they'll attach like a metal plate that's going to vibrate really easily. They'll put some light sand or salt on it, and then they'll put a tuning fork to it or a speaker right up next to it. And when they play the different tones, it actually just, it immediately shifts into different geometric, symmetrical patterns. And it's pretty incredible. And then obviously if you have a glass of water and you're playing deep bass right next to it, you'll see it vibrating, and with the same thought that those sound waves are actually vibrating through the water and moving it. And then the doctor, well, we know who we're talking about. He basically took this notion and thought, well, what if we freeze the water while it has this vibration going through it? What will it look like? And so he tried it with Beethoven, with just saying the word love, with saying the word Hitler, with saying hateful words to it, and then froze the crystals. And you can see on his website, I can get that for us. We can put it up for you can see all the different photos. And then he took it even a step further, and he would just say it once to the water and then freeze it. And then he took it even further and he just taped a word onto the water, and the crystals would form differently. And I'm sure at some point he just thought the word at something and then froze it. And that's what I believe in, that intention is that powerful. And that's a beautiful thing, and that's how we can make change, by all just pulling together and trying to be on the highest vibration possible, and always think, how do you want to show up in the world? How do you want to be perceived? And what is your intention? I was talking with Michael Sanders, who I know has been on here a bunch of times, my soul brother, star brother, he may have been another massive awakening for me running into him, but
he's a bomb in himself. If you're not if you're not ready, like, holy crap, how do I handle this? How do I handle this guy?
Yeah, exactly. In a loincloth. But I was saying, I think the only thing we ever truly own in our lifetimes is the energetic mark we leave in this world and on other energetic beings. And he's kind of sat there for a second, all Sanders-like, and went, well, actually, people can misinterpret your intention and might take it the wrong way. So the only thing you ever really own is your intention. And I was like, yeah, you're right. That's perfect. So I think of that a lot. I try to think of that. If that's the only thing I can ever really own in this world, the only thing I'll take out of here is my intention. I want to keep it to the highest cause. And that is just to help people. So I borrow from Ram Dass's life's work motto, which is I work on myself as a way to help people, and I help people as a way to work on myself.
Mm, that's beautiful. It's awesome, brother. I just, well, you dazed me with that quote, and then I'm just every time I see Sanders, I just imagine like just our like second meeting where he's like sweaty and shirtless at like a business conference, and I just come down this escalator in Toronto at like a convention center, full proper business, and this guy's sitting there, jeans, and I'd only met him one time. I knew he was awesome, but he's sweating, and the funniest thing about the whole thing was he didn't even register how it was strange.
Yeah.
He didn't even consider how that was odd. He's like lying on the beanbag chair. But yeah, that's amazing. It's
Yeah, I saw some photos of that convention. He told me it was hot, and at one point he was actually starting to take his pants off, and that was when it registered. Like, oh yeah, people might think that's weird.
yeah. Oh yeah. He told me after that he had a 50-50 debate whether he was going to take his pants off or not. Like he's in the world, but he's playing by his own rules. Oh, it was that night too. One of the funniest sentences I've ever heard out of someone's mouth. We're in Toronto. It's late at night and there's a red light, and he kind of slows down, doesn't even stop, and just blows it. And like I just look at him in the car, like, you just blew a red light. You kind of slowed down. He looks at me. He's like, I'm not going to let that little red bulb tell me what to do. Fair enough, bro. Fair enough. So yeah, he's beautiful, man. Okay, so I gotta ask you a question. So you've had success in starting a restaurant, right? You've had success in starting a tequila company. People might think that this is an easy task where you're a privileged white California boy, and I know that hasn't been the case. What for you? And then you kind of grazed over that, how the success was seeing. How do you say his name? I'm going to butcher it, and I don't want to.
Hernan Fernando.
Hernan?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so Hernan, you see him in the car with his family, and I know for you, you're not messing around. That is it, and I know that you're who you are, and how I see you treat people is really beautiful. That's why I consider you one of my close friends and brothers. So, how in that process, what is success for you? How do people find success? Because a lot of time, right, we're trying to grasp, we need to eat, we need to survive. You got a kid on the way, right? So you're leveling up and you're like, oh my God, hope this tequila company works. I got to feed my kid. He probably wants to play soccer too, the little bugger. I got to have to pay for that, So what kind of advice do you have in your journey and really going all in there and having that courage and moving forward and overcoming the obstacles, which I know you faced, which were many, on achieving success, and what is success to you?
Well, I think success, I recently was told by my friend Thomas again, who's just a total, I call him the Jedi pirate, Thomas. He said to him, success is being held in high regard by those who you hold in high regard. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, in, I guess, almost 15 years of bartending, I have met people from all walks of life, from all over the world, from all different economic backgrounds and all different wealth levels. And I've seen some of the happiest people I've ever met that were dirt poor, could barely afford the beer they were coming in to buy, and they're just traveling the world and happen to be in Santa Monica or San Francisco. I've seen some of the richest people in the world be really happy, and I've seen the opposite. And that was always really telling to me that it wasn't about the money, it was about the mindset. And I think the way we were able to find success for the restaurant was because, honestly, our cause was greater than just putting money in our bank accounts. It was 5 friends coming together that wanted to create a place. We wanted to create jobs for Anand's family. We wanted to reunite him with his family. We wanted to be a spot in our neighborhood that people could be proud to call their own, because it was an underserved area as far as a restaurant or a bar or a place to just go and hang out, a social hall, if you will. was concerned. They just didn't have that. And we wanted to be more than just the checkout at the end of the night. And that shows, people feel it. It's really quick and easy to tell. I mean, especially because we had people from this neighborhood that were kind of old school, and they came in and they told us, you're not going to make it. You don't know this town. I mean, it was pretty brutal to hear that after, like, risking everything you've ever made. You know, I sold my motorcycle to get the place open when the fire department came in, and they were like, oh yeah, you just need this one little thing. It's called an earthquake shutoff valve. It's like this big. We're like, awesome. How much? $7,000. Oh, so literally we were so broke and destitute. And to have some people saying that, it was a test though, you know, looking back, that's just a test of like who you are and why are you doing it. And I think that the world has constantly serving up everybody. You'll see, you know, think about it. How many times you'll see, just wait, you'll see. That has literally been stoking my fire since I was 5 years old. People telling me you'll see. I don't know what it is about it. It's like, you're not going to tell me what I'll see. You'll fucking see, man, you know? But at the core of it, it was all is love, because it was love of a son for his mother and his family, wanting to support for them. And then I met him, and immediately it was like, if you ever see those people that immediately you want to protect them and like take them under your wing, even though he's the least needing of that. Like, he is the toughest kid. I have so many stories about him, and he's just the best kid, but I learned so much just by being around him. The first time I was driving in a car with him, we were driving, I think I was taking him surfing, and all of a sudden he grabs me, he's like, stop. And I'm like, what, man? And he's like, oh, that guy's car's broken down. We got to go help him push it off the road. And it was just like, in LA, you just go right past all that stuff. And with him, it was like, oh no way, you know? And so I always would joke around that if I had one call to save my life, there are a lot of people I could call, but I'd call Hernan because he'd pick up, you know? He's just an amazing kid, and his mom is just as amazing. When we were broke, eating beans and rice for the last 2 months, just the cities delaying us getting open, we had these massive bags of rice, and it was $15 for 16 dozen eggs. We were eating eggs, beans, and rice, which is, hey, that's great. You know, at least we're eating eggs, beans, and rice, right? But we're sitting in the kitchen, and we're just so like kind of heartbroken and like little busted up from the city holding us back. And Hernan's mom WhatsApped him. She said, Hernan, estamos vivos y eso ya es una victoria. Hernan, we are alive, and that's already a victory. And then she said, ¿Y sabes qué? Hubiera no existe. I would have or I could have doesn't exist. So without being harsh, she was basically like, this is it, man up. This is what you guys have wanted, you know? And she had the ability to just boom, ping us like that, you know? And so in a lot of ways, we were doing it for her and for their family. And it's the type of thing that you're just not going to quit on. I think that's where the success comes from. When you just really believe in something, you're never gonna lose, because you're never gonna quit. Because that's it. That's what you want to do. It's how you want to show up in the world. It's what you want to show people, and it inspires people. When you're inspired, it inspires somebody. It's contagious, you know? They come in and then they want to be a part of it too. And they are a part of it just by coming in and eating tacos, you know, once a week or whatever. Then you are a part of it. You're a part of the story, you know. And that's the same thing that I want to create with the tequila. Is that it's not a created story. It's not a marketing team that's got a bunch of models setting up shop over here and we're going to pretend like we're spiritual or whatever. It's like, no, you know, I'm going to as many festivals as I can, and I'm bringing it. And if you run into me, there's 9 times out of 10, I've got a bottle either in my pants or in my jumpsuit or in my backpack. And, you know, and I'll sit down with you and share a shot with you and talk about life. And that's it. You know, we're all part of the story. We're all part of each other's story. And the more we step into our higher purpose, each and every one of us, the more we'll all feel good about every single thing that we're reaching for, whether it's a book to give my cousin about how to be a Zen athlete, or lunch, or a meditation class or yoga class. If you can just feel good about every one of those things because you know that their why is a higher purpose why.
Yeah, man. Well, what I think that, when you just sharing the story, you're kind of just sharing how you got to where you are today in a very real and open and honest way. And it's the story. It's one of those examples of, an ancient principle that just keeps being repeated, but can you follow it? And that is, make your why, more important than anything. Why, if you know why you're doing it, to your core, then the obstacles are going to start to fall down because you get obstacles. So if your why isn't strong enough, one of those obstacles is going to get you, right? But when it is for something other than yourself, if you were doing this just so you could be rich and people would think you're cool, and then you own the restaurant and you got beautiful girls in California thinking you're a pimp, you could be successful, but the chances are a lot less. You know what I mean? There's a higher purpose to it. And when we attach a higher purpose, I think that spirit is always on your side too. You really get that, spirit boost because it understands your intention, and it's an alignment, but it doesn't make it easy. It just gives you that fuel and that energy to overcome the freaking obstacles that continue to come. You're ready to open your restaurant. It's like, oh yeah, just this little tiny thing, like, pull $7,000 out of your pocket. You're like, come on, dude, I just put in like 100 or whatever. Like, where? Yeah. Shoot, right? It's not like I just put money into things, and so it comes back to like, and I think ultimately too, although you're serving and you're having an impact on other people, you're employing people, yeah, you're a firecracker of awesome energy. Whenever I see you around, we're going to hang out on the 13th. I can't wait. It's been a while. And I love bringing you in places because you make people feel good because you feel good and you're sorted. You know what you're doing. You don't wake up, and I know you're working your ass off, and you work really hard and you get stressed like anyone else, but you have a purpose, and that really generates that field. So ultimately you're sorting out your existence and your purpose, and that's helping everybody around you. And I think it's just a really you're a powerful example of what happens when you can do that, and how life kind of unfolds, and it just gets bigger. It doesn't end. You have that next thing, but nothing is attached to how can I get this. So Blake Landis is going down the street in a Lamborghini. Now that could definitely happen one day, but it's not the intention behind it. And I think that we're moving into a society, into a world where this is becoming the most important thing, this intention, and we have to do it all together because the world is a little bit messed up, and we change it by changing ourselves and being that reflection in our communities. So I guess I wanted to ask, what are your thoughts on like what you're seeing within, because you're getting a lot of different people come in your restaurants, you have different age groups. Are you noticing like what kind of conversations are people having nowadays, and what do you see is moving, as far as like the big picture? Because you're in the States, there's lots of crap going on right now. What do you see in that kind of bigger picture?
Yeah, it's funny you ask. I mean, Cinco is one of the most eclectic crowds I've ever served in any of the places I've ever worked, which is pretty amazing considering that I ran a nightclub in the Castro of San Francisco for a while. We are in this little spot that was kind of a forgotten bit of Los Angeles. And then all of a sudden it's boomed in the last 4 or 5 years. Silicon Beach developed a $2.1 billion project. They signed the deal 3 days after we signed our lease to change Cinco and take over the Siam Thai that had been there for 40 years. So it's this old Thai restaurant for 40 years. Now all of a sudden this little patch of undeveloped land is going to turn into Facebook, TMZ, Google, Yahoo, all of this, some of the biggest companies in the world right now. And then you've got LMU, which is a private, pretty high-end private school. And then you've got Otis, which is a school of design. These are all within a 2-mile radius. Then you've got Inglewood, a few miles inland on Manchester, and then you've got the beach just to the west of us. So you've got this like surf culture mixing with inner city culture, mixing with artists that have, they've got their big design books they're carrying with them, and their, hair's dyed and maybe slightly socially awkward, and then like the fraternities and sororities coming in, and they're all sitting next to each other at the bar. And it's been so amazing because there's only been 2 fights, and it was amongst one group because of like a girl and a guy situation of like a dating thing. And it was never like a racial clash or anything like that. It was just this group getting too drunk together twice. I was like, all right, whatever. But other than that, it's just been so amazing to see, a young college kid talking to somebody who's lived in Inglewood for their entire life, talking to SpaceX also relocates all of their employees and puts them up across the street in this building right next to us. So you've got these SpaceX employees that walk in, and they're just firing on all cylinders. They start talking and definitely a lot more high vibe conversations. Obviously, you're still getting the like, they just got back from Coachella and they're talking about, dropping Molly and whatever, which is great too. But very regularly, the book Many Lives, Many Masters was actually recommended to me by a customer coming into Cinco. And so that's a kind of, I have seen that absolutely a difference in what's being talked about. And obviously people talking about Trump, and pretty much everybody who comes into Cinco universally hates Trump except for like maybe one of our investors. And he just catches shit for not hating him. So, but he's a necessary evil in the world, right? We need the contrast in order for us to realize, hey, we need to band together and actually make the change, not go, oh, well, Hillary was elected, she'll do it, she's got it, go Hillary, and we're just gonna go on with our lives. It's for the first time in my lifetime here in LA, I've seen so many people from so many walks of life, so many age groups actually coming out and going to protests and talking about things and wanting change and coming up with ideas to make change. And yeah, so whether it's spiritual or political, there are definitely a lot of very serious conversations that go on over drinks at Cinco.
That's awesome, man. Well, you're kind of cultivating, you're cultivating a space. You and I go to transformational festivals, and we call them like kind of like cosmic celebrations. It's where people that are resonating at that really high level, not everybody, but you really a lot of the time are in very, very high level conversations about the earth, about what's going on, about humanity, about helping everything, about removing these obstacles that, we all have to live within. And some of them are just pretty darn brutal. So, for you were definitely like vibrate at a really high level. Like you have a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm. Do you give that credit to anything? Have you always just been super upbeat and happy, or like, how would you recommend like getting that kind of, you see you from a mile away and you're smiling and you're like, dude, that's a friendly guy. Like, I bet you if I go near him, I'm going to get a hug, and little do they know you have like tequila in your shorts. That might take it like, you're like pants tequila. But like, what do you do on a daily basis? Like, what do you attribute your, your energy and happiness and success to?
From the time I was really little, before I can remember, my parents just said that I always had a smile on my face, and I was always just like kind of looking around in awe at the world. And not that I took it for granted, but it took somebody else pointing out to me that I just always noticed the little things. When I'm walking around, like I'll see, I don't know, like a salamander cruising out from behind a rock, or every time I'm surfing in the morning, like, which is great. That's a total meditation for me. Before I even knew about meditation, I would surf every morning before school when my parents moved closer to the beach, and that was connecting with nature, and it was a time all to myself and a time to appreciate life and the gift that is life. But I think I get the core of it. It's just about like the appreciation of just being down here, like all the little things. As far as the energy goes, I don't know. I'm a fire sign. I'm always, running hot, you know, when everybody else is cold, I'm usually warm. And I thrive off other after coming around me or hanging out with me. If I can tell that they're starting to feel better, it comes right back at me, and then it's like, you know, it's like a Taurus. It's a game that I'll play with myself sometimes. When we first opened Cinco, when we had a day off, you'd be by yourself because everybody else was working, and it was during the week, and most of my friends had full-time jobs at the time, and so I would just go out by myself, and I play this game where everybody I encountered, I would try to make them smile. And then after a while, I tried to do it without even saying anything. So usually I'd be like, hey, good morning, with a smile. It's pretty easy, you could smile back. But then I tried to do it without saying anything at all, just kind of like, and give them a smile and see if you could do it. And then just realizing that you're just sending out that positive vibe and you're getting it back. And I started to realize that, like, that's really what makes me feel good about, like, at the end of the day, if I've been out there, like, putting out the best vibe I can, you know, of course, sometimes you're frustrated, you're in line for something, and you'll hear somebody else being rude, and it just sucks, you know, and it makes you think, like, oh, I don't want to show up like that. I don't ever want to be like that, because every little moment in your life is a chance to show up and to create. It's a blank canvas, you know, especially in those weird situations like waiting in the post office. You know, if you can, like, break that mood and get people to start laughing, like, I feel like those are those weird little moments when you have this opportunity to live and create, you know, those places where you might not normally see it.
Yeah, man, I totally agree. One of the examples that I a lot is, you know, if I have like a spirituality consciousness or something, and then I'm just an a-hole at the post office or getting my coffee, like, it's not being example. And I kind of wanted to touch on what you said about stopping and the importance of being the one coming out, the importance of you example. So do you think like learning those lessons, how important? I see there's getting feedback. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. It's like low volume, but I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so you know, I wanted to touch on Fernand because you know, I think it's so important that we are that. You know, don't wait for time. You know, don't wait for somebody else to up and help that person help. You're the person who come. It's your opportunity to help your fellow man. You know, carries a lot of weight. That speaks to your something that you actually do. So you're receiving it, you know, in your life experience. You're starting to get a little bit more, and you're building a lot more with everything that you're working on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, the two of us had a pretty wild mushroom trip one night, and I could tell he was just not in this realm anymore, and I was just kind of there holding space, waiting for him to, you know, just being there if he needed me, and he was looking at me, but I could tell he wasn't looking at this me, you know, he was seeing me as something else. And we were up on a balcony, we were actually at a Desert Hearts party in downtown Los Angeles, and he was looking out at the people, and he had this huge smile on his face, and he kind of had his hands up, and then he snapped out of it, and he was back. And I was like, where'd you go? What'd you see, man? And he said that we were basically in Mayan or Aztec times, and that he was a king, and that I was his guide, and that he was happy because the people were happy. We were loved as leaders and rulers, and all the people that looked up to us loved that we were running things. And I told him, well, that's what we're doing in this life too, because as we grow with this company right now, you know, with Cinco, we had 37 employees, and most of them, all of them, they love us. We walk in and it's hugs and high fives, and that's one of the best things about the restaurant is that people love coming to work there. I forgot to mention that. Like, that's that, and customers telling me that, you know, Cinco plays such an amazing role in their life. They love being able to walk there and meet friends, or I met my girlfriend here, whatever. Those things, those mean so much to me, because that means we are leading in the right way. We're creating that space in the right manner. And another thing that Michael Sanders shared with me, after a Lovolution in the park, he saw like scraped into a wall in the bathroom, to whom much is given, much is tested. And I think that's so true. And I think that's why I chose in this lifetime to wait and to have financial success be come from hard work and not have it come easy, because I feel like it'd be easy to let that kind of financial success change you when you're younger and you haven't really set your feet down and like planted, you know, like you're ready to battle it out for your higher cause, you know? Because once you've gone through it, it's just different. I view it so differently than I used to. Like, I'm pretty sure in the future it doesn't even exist. Like, we don't even need it. It's just like, what is it? Like, it's money. Like, you have this numbers in your account. If you were stranded on an island, what would you want? A box of money or a box of tools, you know, or a box of coconuts? I don't know. You know, it's a funny thing. I see it now as just a resource for change. Because when I realized that I just wanted to make a difference and try to help change the world, I could get up on a soapbox and yell about it all day long on 3rd Street Promenade. But the only people who would stop and listen were probably people that already believe those things, the hippies, you know. Everybody else is like, crazy guy yelling on the box. But then if you have something that the Western world deems as desirable, they see it as something that they want for themselves, all of a sudden you have a validated voice. And they might look up to you, or they might listen to you, or they might try to emulate you. And so that's where I see that leading by example role, where I see it as like it becomes so important. Because as soon as you're there and you have that level of financial success that some people are looking for, then they're like, oh, that's how you do it. You love people, you love yourself, and you give back. You know, and we're still, you know, pouring all the money back into Angelisco. We're not buying yachts or anything, and we have no intention to buy yachts. You know, if anything, we'd be looking to try and help out with the homeless problem here in Los Angeles, or, you know, looking to get back to schools in Mexico and different things like that. That's where it really pays off.
Yeah, brother.
Yeah, brother.
I love all that, dude. Well, I think it's super. That's what you do. Is you are the example, like Gandhi said. You want to be in the world. And I think you're an example of that. And what you said earlier about being inspiration. You know, because they can. They're watching how you act, right? And then from that. You know, my example. Although he was dead. You know, I can look at life. What he talked about, embodied, so I can listen and be inspired by his action. Mm-hmm. So, you know, definitely grow bigger, to grow larger, to have an impact. And I love what you said about mindset. I just see it as current. When the light and the conscious soul and the people who are serving will have more currency, more money, we're going to be able to work it, really make it happen. You know, most people can't do anything, but you're starting. So start with where you are. Mm-hmm. Start with making smile when you walk down the street. It's massive. And if you want to keep from there, you can keep going from there. But it's that little tiny action, that same exact principle that works when you and then the tequila and then the few $100 million company, and you're gonna have a new issue, and you're gonna have to take that pressure of everything that's going to come with that. It's not necessarily a fun responsibility. You know, it's kind of cool to get under the radar. just support yourself, because especially when you are committed to change, it's how do you do it most aligned as possible as you grow.
Yeah.
So I am happy that you're up to the challenge, responsibility on what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it helps when having friends like you, brothers, cosmic brothers, to call and get charged up. I mean, every time we talk, it's just like a video game, get like the extra lives ding up. But yeah, man, I mean, if you want to change the world, you got to start with your inner world, and sometimes I got to reach out to my man, Matt Belair, for a little inner world tuning, and then you can start with your, with the world around you, and slowly just move out from there. And obviously the ripple effect, if you're affecting positively the world around you, then the world around you starts changing their inner world, and it's just beautiful, I mean, another amazing thing that Cinco has done is it drew in this amazing little cosmic sister. Her name is Sydney, and she started a group called Underground Society, and now she's putting on workshops once a month to help people. The last one was on self-love. This one's on root chakra, and she's getting a pretty big following, and then people come into Cinco to see her and to see Cinco, and because she talks about it, and I go and I speak at the workshops, and it is cultivating something. It's cultivating change, and it's empowering people to make the changes for themselves, And now all of a sudden I have this awesome little sister who's a leader, like going off in this direction, and it's just amazing, to see that, there's no way we're not alone in this fight. Like, people are waking up and going for it. And she's what, 22 or 23 or something. I'm 35. When I was 22 or 23, I was a happy person, and I cared a lot about people, but I wasn't as conscious about my purpose and, why we're here and all that. That's why I'm excited to have this little one land in our lives. Phoenix, supposed to be born on July 2nd, because I just know that he's a cosmic teacher, and he's coming here he's got his own things he wants to do, and he's going to teach us all so much, and it's going to be beautiful. Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Yeah. Did I tell you about, I had an intentional mushroom trip to contact him and to spend some time with him. Have I shared that with you?
Only a little bit.
Okay. So we went on a baby moon, which I didn't know that existed until Jess told me about it. It's like a honeymoon before the baby comes. So like one last trip with no baby. It's a pretty cool idea. We went to Santa Barbara, stayed in this amazing Airbnb out on, basically in the forest, and looking onto this creek, and half of the structure was mirror reflecting the forest behind it, and the other front was all glass looking into the creek, and it's just magnificent. These like 40-foot tall sycamore trees out in front of us with uplights on them. And so I decided to take some mushrooms, and with the intention of contacting Phoenix and getting a little bit more information about, why he was coming here and what's he want to do, and why are you picking us, and all that. And it was pretty wild. And it was, going through the normal psychedelic realms and thanking different things for coming into my awareness, but, allowing them to pass, because I was really just focusing like Phoenix. And all of a sudden I knew I was with him, with where he came from, or where he's coming from, or maybe where he's been at least once. It was just this incredible, beautiful, geometric, symmetrical artwork that kind of looked like Mayan calendars, but it wasn't a Mayan calendar. It was something I've never seen, and there was these green lights glowing through it, and I kept saying, this is where Phoenix is from, and I was hearing nothing back. And then I thought to myself, oh, you don't use language, it's just telepathic communication here. And then it was just like, yes. And they were just telling me that basically down on Earth, a lot of human beings have a lot of built up artificial man-made decay in our energetic bodies. and that by reconnecting with nature and cultivating community around nature, we can clear out that dead energy. And I thought that sounds pretty cool. You know, what do you call yourselves? And again, it was like, boom, kind of this understanding that there's not really a word for it in our language, but if you had to say something, it would be similar to the lightning tribe, and that they're striking down with blasts of positive energy and light in different parts of the world, and that Phoenix is going to be one of those grounding lightning rods to ground in this energy. You know, wow, that's pretty humbling and amazing. And then I thought, well, I'd like to have one of these healings. And instantly, I was outside of my body and looking at it from the side, and it was just a perfect silhouette of me laying down, and it was all dark, total shadow. And the frogs and the crickets were unbelievable in this area from the creek. They were rising to a crescendo every few minutes and then dropping to dead silence and then falling again. And so all of a sudden, those sounds were even louder. It was all I could hear. It sounded like I'd put headphones on, and I was feeling this amazing, motherly, loving energy over me, like a grandmother. And I was feeling a wafting over me, over my face. I even opened my eyes for a second to see if it was Jessica, but she was still asleep. And closed my eyes right back into it. And this stream from the creek starts pouring into my mouth. And I'm looking at my body from the side, and I see, as the stream pours in, all these plants, and basically the forest life starts filling up my entire body, and all the darkness is being pushed out of my heels until I was completely one with the forest, and every ribbit and every cricket from the crickets was pulsating in my body. I was in full connectivity, and it felt so amazing to be at one with nature. And they told me that they are intentionally and yet effortlessly at one with nature, and that's what it feels like. And then I opened my eyes, and I was back.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
Dude, I love that. It's a dance. It's a dance.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys have mouse? You guys have mouse?
No.
Okay. Dude, well, the whole podcast. I just love how you're just the example. Just what it's like. Follow the principle. Not easy, but following basic principles of being of something higher than yourself. Setting your intention to be of service, and things will fall into line. Take some freaking time. Yes. Right, and we're having now. I'll just use my second power. Yes, could be wrong. But you're gonna make tons of money. And you're gonna be like, and I'm not keeping lots of it. Why? Because you deserve it. And you're doing it. Not that you care. So I'm so proud of who you are. Excited to see what you're going to become and to be. Especially with being a.
Yeah, thank you, brother. What you see in me, I see in you.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, appreciate that. Absolutely.
So, do you want to leave? Is there anything you wish I asked, or do you want to leave the listeners with?
Let's see. What do we want to end on? I think just for one day, make your level of success being whether or not the majority of people that you came in contact with that day left feeling better than they felt before they came in contact with you. And I try to make that always my measure of success. And if you hit that 100% rate where everybody, you'll get those days where people are like, man, I feel so much better now. Or like, wow, you really made me feel better today. And like, you will start to feel so good. It's crazy. And you'll realize all these other things don't matter. All these distractions, the matrix things that come in, like the car, or the this or the that, or the things we think we need, especially living here in Los Angeles. But try for one day to make that your measure of success. That's what I would say. See what happens.
Amazing, brother. And where can people find talk to you, they want to check out, go visit restaurants that you're talking.
Oh yeah, hit me up on Facebook, Blake Landis, Landis, or you can email me, Blake at Angelisco Tequila. Always down to talk. I love diving off the deep end, going straight into the spiritual and the cosmic realms with people. We've all known each other before, especially if you want to talk about something like that with me. So I'm always around. Yeah, and if you're in LA, come to Cinco. Again, please hit me up. I live super close, so down to pop over there and say hey. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome,
Thanks
man.
for having me on, brother. I love you, man. This has been amazing.
Dude, I love you so much. Dude, thank you for coming on. And just who you are, brother. Thank you, guys. Catch you in the next one.
Cheers.